The boardroom projector flickered, and my stomach dropped. I watched in horror as our final presentation corrupted before everyone's eyes. Data vanished. Visuals scrambled into meaningless pixels. The product demo crashed with a harsh beep that echoed through the silent room. 12 executives stared at the blank screen, then at me. My hands trembled as I fumbled with the laptop, desperately trying to fix what I knew was already destroyed. Director Evelyn Cross leaned forward, her expression perfectly crafted with fake concern. "I warned Mara the system wasn't stable," she said smoothly, turning to the CEO. "Perhaps we rushed this launch." The words hit me like ice water. She'd done this. I knew it in my bones. Just last night, everything worked perfectly. Now my 6 months of work lay in ruins, and Evelyn sat there with the faintest smile playing at her lips. The executives whispered among themselves. My career was ending in real time. As they filed out, I locked eyes with Evelyn. Her smile widened slightly. I made a silent promise right there. I would prove every single lie she'd told. The email came Monday morning. Suspended pending investigation into project failure and potential misconduct. My hands shook reading those words. Misconduct? I'd done nothing wrong. But Evelyn had already positioned herself as the hero who'd caught the problem before it reached clients. I watched from home as she gave interviews about quality control and catching errors early. My inbox was locked. My project files had vanished from the shared drive. Colleagues who'd celebrated with me Friday now avoided my calls. Text messages went unanswered. The whispers had already started, I knew. Everyone believed Evelyn's version. Why wouldn't they? She was the trusted director with 15 years at the company. I was just a young project manager who'd apparently crashed a major presentation. But that night, checking my personal email, I found something. An automated backup notification I'd set up months ago. One file had synced to my cloud storage. A server log from the night before the presentation. Timestamp 2:13 nachts. Login credentials, Evelyn Cross. My heart pounded. She'd been in the system. Now I had proof. I tried accessing the company's server Tuesday morning to pull the complete logs. Access denied. My credentials were completely locked out. Every pathway I'd used for 2 years suddenly blocked. Panicking, I called HR and demanded a meeting. They made me wait 3 hours in a small conference room. When the HR manager finally arrived, she barely looked at me. "We're conducting our investigation," she said flatly. "You need to be patient." I explained about the server logs, about Evelyn's access at 2 a.m., about the suspicious timing. She wrote nothing down. Then the door opened. Evelyn walked in, sympathy painted across her face like a mask. "Mara, I understand you're upset," she said gently. "These things happen. Maybe it's best if you resign quietly. We could arrange a reference, make this easier for everyone." Her eyes were cold despite the soft words. I felt rage building in my chest. "I want an independent audit," I said clearly. "A full investigation of what happened." Evelyn's smile faltered for just a second. The HR manager shifted uncomfortably. "That's not standard procedure," she began. "Then make it standard," I interrupted. Evelyn's jaw tightened. The war had officially begun. I needed help. Someone inside the company who still trusted me. I thought of Theo Brennan, a systems analyst I'd helped hire 8 months ago. He'd struggled through his interviews, but I'd seen his potential and fought for him. Now I hoped he remembered. We met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the office. Theo looked nervous, glancing around like someone might be watching. "I could lose my job for this," he whispered. I showed him the backup log on my phone. His eyes widened. "Can you check the old server backups?" I asked. "See if there's more evidence." He was quiet for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll try." "But Mara, they're already wiping traces. Someone's systematically deleting logs from the past week. Someone with high-level access." My blood ran cold. This was bigger than I'd thought. That night, my phone buzzed with a message from Theo. "You were right. The logs are real. But someone else was in the system too. A second account I can't identify." I stared at those words, my apartment suddenly feeling too dark, Too quiet. What had I stumbled into? Theo called me at midnight, his voice urgent and frightened. I found something bad. Really bad. He'd discovered a ghost admin account buried in the system with deep access to everything: personnel files, project data, financial records, security systems. The account was registered under my name, created 3 weeks before the presentation disaster. It's a complete frame job, Theo explained, his words tumbling out fast. Someone set up this account to make it look like you've been sabotaging things for weeks. They have fake logs showing you accessing sensitive files, altering project timelines, even attempting to breach executive communications. I felt sick. Evelyn hadn't just destroyed my presentation. She'd built an entire false narrative showing me as a corporate spy or saboteur. This wasn't just about covering her mistakes. This was premeditated destruction of my career, maybe even criminal charges if she pushed it far enough. Don't tell anyone about this yet, I told Theo. We need more proof before the audit starts. Real, undeniable evidence that connects everything back to her. He agreed, but his voice shook. We were both terrified of what we'd uncovered. I needed to know who was helping Evelyn. Someone was clearly monitoring my digital footprint, deleting evidence, covering tracks. So I set a trap. Using my personal laptop, I created a fake folder titled evidence_review and filled it with meaningless documents made to look important. Fake emails, fabricated timelines, notes that suggested I had proof of Evelyn's guilt. Then I left the laptop connected to the company VPN overnight. If someone was watching my accounts, they'd see this folder and panic. The next morning, Theo called. Someone accessed your laptop remotely at 3:47 a.m. They opened the evidence_review folder and searched through every file. My pulse quickened. Can you trace where the access came from? Already did, he said grimly. The IP address leads directly to Harper Vale's home network. Harper, Evelyn's assistant. The quiet woman who sat outside Evelyn's office, managing her calendar, screening her calls, handling her confidential files. Harper had always seemed nice, even friendly. Now she was part of this conspiracy. I had to get to Harper before Evelyn realized the folder was fake. I needed to flip her, make her an ally, or at least understand what Evelyn had promised or threatened her with. I waited outside Harper's apartment building Thursday evening, my heart hammering. When she emerged from the lobby, I stepped forward. She froze, her face going pale. We need to talk, I said quietly. Harper's eyes darted around the street, then she nodded and led me to a nearby park. We sat on a bench far from anyone else. At first, she denied everything. But when I showed her the traced IP address and mentioned the ghost account, she broke down crying. Evelyn forced me, Harper sobbed. She said you were trying to take her job, that you were dangerous. She made me falsify timestamps on emails, alter meeting notes, even delete server logs. She said if I didn't help her, she'd fire me and make sure I never worked in the industry again. I recorded everything on my phone, keeping it hidden in my jacket pocket. Harper confessed to months of manipulation, lies, cover-ups. When we finished, I had everything I needed. But walking home, I checked my phone. The recording was gone, deleted remotely, while the phone was in my pocket. Only one app had been active, the company's security software that all employees were required to install. Someone was listening, always listening. Theo's next discovery made everything terrifyingly clear. The company's security team reported directly to Marcus Cross, Evelyn's husband, and the firm's chief risk officer. Every digital trace, every deleted file, every covered track led back to the Cross family dynasty. They controlled security, risk management, internal audits, and through Evelyn, a major division of operations. They've built a complete surveillance system, Theo explained, showing me network diagrams on his laptop. Marcus can see every email, every file transfer, every login. That's how they deleted your recording. The security app on your phone feeds directly to his servers. I felt trapped in an invisible cage. Every move I made, they watched. Every piece of evidence I gathered, they could erase. Fighting Evelyn alone was hard enough. Fighting both Crosses, with all their power and access, felt impossible. But I wasn't ready to quit. If anything, understanding the full scope made me more determined. They'd underestimated me once. They'd done it by thinking I was just another employee who'd accept defeat. They were wrong. I'd find a way around their surveillance, a path they couldn't monitor. I had to. My entire future depended on it. The encrypted email arrived at 3 a.m., pulling me from restless sleep. The sender was anonymous, the message brief. If you want the truth, check the audit records from 2019. My hands trembled as I traced the encryption. It came from inside the company network, but the origin was masked. Someone was helping me. But who? Using TThe's remote access codes, I dug through archived audit reports from 5 years ago. Most were routine. Departmental reviews, budget assessments, compliance checks. Then I found it. An internal audit of Evelyn's division from June 2019, authored by Evelyn herself. At first glance, it looked professional. But comparing her numbers against actual financial records I found in backup databases, nothing matched. She'd inflated success rates by 40%. She'd attributed other teams' projects to her division. She'd fabricated client testimonials and falsified revenue projections. Evelyn's entire reputation was built on lies. Her meteoric rise through the company, her awards, her trusted position, all of it rested on this fraudulent 2019 report that nobody had ever properly verified. I finally had her Achilles heel. But as I downloaded the evidence, my laptop screen flickered. A message appeared. Stop digging. My camera light turned on, then off. They knew what I'd found. The intimidation escalated fast. TThe called Friday morning, his voice shaking. Someone tried to breach my home network last night. My security system logged 3 attempts. And my car alarm kept going off every hour. Someone's messing with me, Mara. They're sending a message. Fear crawled up my spine. Then my mother called from 2 states away. Honey, I received a strange letter, she said, confused. It claims you're under criminal investigation for corporate espionage and fraud. It looks official, has legal letterhead, and everything. What's happening? I wanted to scream. Instead, I calmly explained it was a misunderstanding, that everything would be resolved soon. But inside, rage built like a fire. Evelyn and Marcus were threatening my family now, trying to scare me into silence. They'd crossed a line. I was done playing defense, done gathering evidence quietly, and hoping the system would protect me. The system was rigged. The crosses controlled too much. If I wanted justice, I needed to force their hand, make them panic, expose themselves through their own desperation. I opened my laptop and started typing. Operation Mirror was about to begin. I created fake draft emails on my old work laptop, carefully crafted to look like secret correspondence. The messages suggested I was negotiating with a financial journalist, preparing to go public with evidence of corporate fraud. I mentioned dates, implied I had recordings, referenced documents they knew existed. Then I saved the drafts without sending them and left the laptop connected to the compromised company VPN. If Marcus was monitoring everything, he'd see these drafts within hours. I waited. By noon, TThe sent an urgent text. Evelyn just scheduled an emergency meeting with Marcus. Conference room C, 20 minutes. I smiled for the first time in days. TThe had positioned himself near the conference room with recording equipment hidden in his bag. We'd learned from my deleted phone recording. This time, we'd used professional surveillance gear that didn't connect to any company network. That evening, TThe played me the audio. Evelyn's voice came through clearly, tight with stress. If Mara goes public with that 2019 audit, we both go down. Marcus, you promised me this was handled. You said she'd back off after we scared her family. She's more stubborn than I expected, Marcus replied coldly. But I can handle this. Finally, undeniable proof of their conspiracy in their own voices. The board announced the independent audit on Monday. Evelyn maintained perfect composure during the company-wide meeting, even volunteering to assist the auditors in any way possible. She smiled warmly, expressed confidence in complete transparency, and thanked the board for their diligence. I watched from the back of the room, temporarily reinstated while the investigation proceeded. I played the obedient employee, nodding at appropriate moments, keeping my expression neutral. But quietly, I'd already begun feeding the auditors carefully selected information. The server logs, the ghost account details, hints about the falsified 2019 report. I gave them breadcrumbs, letting them think they were discovering everything themselves. For 3 days, it seemed to work. The auditors interviewed staff, reviewed files, and examined system logs. Then, on day 3, the lead auditor abruptly resigned. No explanation, just a terse email about personal reasons. The new auditor arrived the next morning, Gerald Whitmore, an old friend of Marcus Cross. My hope crumbled. They'd replaced an independent investigator with someone they controlled. The game was rigged again. But I couldn't give up now. Somewhere, there had to be evidence even Gerald couldn't ignore or erase. Gerald Whitmore's report came Friday afternoon. Clean, professional, and completely fraudulent. After thorough investigation, he announced to the assembled executives, I find no evidence of deliberate sabotage or misconduct by Director Cross. The presentation failure resulted from Ms. Quinn's insufficient testing protocols and premature system deployment. Director Cross's warnings were appropriately documented. Evelyn accepted the findings with humble grace, even suggesting the company provide me with additional training opportunities. My name was officially ruined. Colleagues who'd briefly shown sympathy now avoided me completely. I was the incompetent project manager who'd blamed her failures on her boss. That evening, I packed my desk, escorted by security. But as I reached the lobby, my phone buzzed. Theo's message made my heart leap. Don't give up. Whitmore didn't know the audit was automatically mirrored to a compliance backup server. Everything Evelyn deleted still exists on an untouched archive. I have the location. Hope surged through me. Gerald had cleared Evelyn based on scrubbed evidence, but the original proof survived somewhere. We just had to get to it before the Crosses realized their mistake and destroyed the backup server too. The archive center sat in an industrial district 40 minutes from downtown. Theo and I arrived at midnight Saturday, using his maintenance credentials to bypass security. The building was dark, filled with rows of humming servers storing years of corporate data. The compliance mirrors are in Section 7, Theo whispered, leading me through narrow aisles. They're automated backups nobody touches. That's why Evelyn and Marcus didn't know to erase them. We found the right server rack. Theo connected his laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard. Files appeared on screen, emails between Evelyn and Marcus from weeks before the presentation, discussing how to neutralize the Quinn problem. Plans to corrupt my presentation files. Instructions for creating the ghost account. Everything. I copied files frantically onto an encrypted drive. Then footsteps echoed through the building. Security. We'd triggered some alert. Go. Theo hissed, pushing the drive into my hands. I'll distract them. Run. I hesitated, but he was already moving toward the footsteps, calling out about checking equipment. I slipped through the back exit into the cold night, the encrypted drive clutched against my chest like a lifeline. Theo was suspended Monday morning. Evelyn personally filed the complaint. Unauthorized system access, breach of data security protocols, potential theft of proprietary information. He called me from home, defeated. She knew we went to the archives. Somehow she knew exactly what we did. I felt sick with guilt. Theo had risked everything to help me, and now his career was destroyed too. But worse, I realized someone on my side was leaking information. Evelyn couldn't have known about the archive trip unless someone told her. That evening, searching my apartment for anything suspicious, I found it. A tiny recording device wedged in my bedroom heating vent, barely visible. Professional grade, actively transmitting. They'd been listening to every conversation, every phone call, every plan I'd made. My apartment, my supposed safe space, was completely compromised. I left the device in place, pretending I hadn't found it. But now I knew. Anything said in my apartment reached Evelyn within minutes. The question was, who'd planted it? And how long had they been listening? I needed to use the surveillance against them, feed them false information, make them overconfident. The hunted was becoming the hunter. Harper showed up at my door Tuesday night, and I barely recognized her. She had a bruised cheek, split lip, and eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry," she sobbed, collapsing into my apartment. "I told Evelyn about the archive trip. She threatened my daughter." The story spilled out between sobs. Harper was a single mother. Her daughter had severe asthma, required expensive medication, and needed their family insurance coverage. Evelyn had threatened to fire Harper and contest her unemployment benefits, leaving her daughter without medical care. "She showed me pictures of my daughter leaving school," Harper whispered, terrified. "She knows where Lily goes when she's alone. She said if I didn't cooperate, she couldn't guarantee Lily's safety." My anger toward Harper dissolved into horror. Evelyn wasn't just corrupt. She was dangerous, willing to threaten a child to maintain her lies. I pulled Harper close. "We're going to stop her," I promised. "But I need your help. Can you be a double agent? Feed Evelyn false information while secretly helping me." Harper wiped her eyes, then nodded with determination. "Tell me what to do." We spent 3 hours planning. Harper would continue reporting to Evelyn, but everything she shared would be carefully crafted lies designed to misdirect their damage control efforts. The article appeared in the Ledger Thursday morning. The headline screamed across financial news sites, "Audit in question, internal data manipulation alleged at Cross Industries." The journalist had received an anonymous tip, backed by preliminary evidence of falsified reports and suspicious audit irregularities. Within hours, the story went viral. Investors demanded transparency. Stock prices dipped. The board convened an emergency meeting. Evelyn immediately blamed me, calling a press conference to suggest I'd fabricated evidence out of revenge. Ms. Quinn's accusations are desperate attempts to salvage her failed career, she declared calmly. "We stand behind our audit findings completely." But the damage was done. Public pressure forced the board's hand. They announced a new, truly independent audit conducted by an outside firm with no connections to Cross Industries. Real auditors arrived Monday morning, requesting comprehensive access to all communications, all server logs, all files from the past year. For the first time, I saw genuine fear in Evelyn's eyes during the company meeting. She maintained her composure, but her hands trembled slightly. Marcus stood beside her, jaw tight, whispering urgent instructions. Their empire was finally cracking, and I was just getting started. The new auditors worked methodically, interviewing everyone and examining every digital footprint. Theo was brought back under whistleblower protection, his suspension reversed. He spent hours walking them through server architectures, showing them where evidence had been deleted and how to recover it. I watched Evelyn's confidence erode day by day. She snapped at Harper, made mistakes in meetings, and looked exhausted. The perfect director facade was crumbling. Then the auditors discovered something that made her panic visibly. One server log showed Evelyn's credentials accessing sensitive files from my apartment's IP address at a time she was supposedly in a board meeting across town. The auditors called her in for questioning. "Can you explain this access?" they asked. Evelyn's explanation was smooth. Clearly, I'd stolen her credentials and used them to frame her. "Ms. Quinn is cunning," she insisted. "She's created this entire scenario to destroy me." But the auditors weren't convinced. They requested phone records, security camera footage, building access logs. They were building a timeline that would prove Evelyn's alibi. I smiled, knowing what they'd find. The frame within the frame was about to be exposed. Harper's old text messages proved everything. Working with the auditors, we recovered deleted conversations where Evelyn gave Harper explicit instructions. Use the VPN proxy to make it look like I'm accessing from Mara's apartment. Set the timestamp for 9:47 p.m. exactly. Theo cross-referenced those timestamps with building security footage. At 9:47 p.m. on the night in question, Evelyn was clearly visible in the executive boardroom, participating in a conference call about quarterly projections. She couldn't have been accessing files from my apartment because she was on camera elsewhere, surrounded by witnesses. The VPN proxy had masked her real location, making it appear her credentials were used from my IP address. But she'd been too clever, too detailed in her framing attempt. She'd created evidence that was forensically impossible. The auditors confronted her with the timeline. Evelyn's face went white. She stammered about technical errors, about system glitches, about being set up herself. But the evidence was irrefutable. She'd staged the entire thing, and now her elaborate lie had trapped her. I prepared for the final counterstrike. Everything was falling into place. Justice was finally within reach. The confrontation happened in the main conference room, cameras recording everything for legal purposes. Auditors, board members, lawyers, and executives filled the space. Evelyn sat at the table, Marcus beside her, both trying to maintain dignity. I stood and played the recording Theo had captured, Evelyn and Marcus discussing how to handle me, admitting the framed job, worrying about exposure. The room went silent. Then I presented the mirrored audit records from the archive server, showing every deleted file, every covered track. Finally, I displayed the falsified 2019 report, comparing Evelyn's claims against actual financial records. The lies were undeniable, mathematical, proven. Evelyn tried denying everything. "This is fabricated evidence," she insisted. "Mara has manipulated these files to destroy me." But when I showed the metadata, the audit trail, the forensic proof that she'd tampered with systems while staging her access from my apartment, her arguments collapsed. Marcus stood abruptly, his face red with rage. "This is a witch hunt," he shouted, storming toward the door. But security blocked his exit. The board had questions for him, too. Evelyn stared at me across the table. Then she smiled, cold and bitter. "You think this ends here?" she asked quietly. "You have no idea what you've started." Evelyn filed a defamation lawsuit the next day, claiming I'd fabricated evidence and destroyed her reputation through malicious lies. Her lawyer was expensive, aggressive, and skilled at manipulating media narratives. Within hours, social media exploded. #TeamMara and #TeamEvelyn trending simultaneously. People who'd never heard of cross industries were suddenly experts, debating who was the real victim. News channels invited legal analysts to discuss the case. Some praised my courage. Others called me vindictive and obsessed. The court of public opinion was split, messy, and loud. But I had truth on my side. The court ordered comprehensive digital forensics on all evidence from both sides. Independent experts spent 3 weeks examining every file, every metadata tag, every timestamp. Their report was devastating for Evelyn. The forensics revealed embedded metadata proving she'd tampered with systems on multiple occasions. They found deleted audit trails linking directly to her private cloud storage. They recovered emails she thought were permanently erased. The technical evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, and completely damning. The dominoes began falling. Fast. Marcus resigned under pressure the following Monday. The board accepted his resignation with barely concealed relief, eager to distance the company from the scandal. Evelyn's name was systematically scrubbed from all corporate materials, her awards removed from the lobby, her achievements attributed to department teams instead. But Evelyn wasn't finished. The day before the final board vote to terminate her employment, she leaked my private therapy notes to the press. Notes from sessions after my father's death, when I'd struggled with anxiety and depression. She painted me as unstable, unreliable, potentially delusional. Public sympathy shifted again. Suddenly, I was the troubled employee who'd imagined conspiracies, who destroyed innocent lives during a mental health crisis. I broke down completely, sitting in my apartment, unable to stop crying. Everything I'd fought for was crumbling because of my most private, painful moments exposed for entertainment. Then Harper arrived. She handed me an envelope without saying a word. Inside was a signed memo on Evelyn's letterhead, dated 2 months before the presentation disaster. The memo authorized preemptive measures against problematic employee MQ, including comprehensive digital monitoring and strategic intervention, if necessary. It was Evelyn's signature on my destruction, written and approved before I'd done anything wrong. The ledger offered me a live interview, broadcast to millions. I almost declined, exhausted and emotionally raw. But Theo convinced me. This is your chance to tell your story without anyone filtering it. Show them who you really are. I sat across from the interviewer, calm despite my racing heart. For 40 minutes, I walked through everything. I showed the server logs, the ghost account, the falsified 2019 audit. I explained the surveillance, the intimidation, the threats against Harper's daughter. I displayed the timeline proving Evelyn's impossible access from my apartment. And I read from her own memo, the one authorizing my systematic destruction. My voice never wavered. The facts spoke for themselves. The interviewer asked about my therapy notes. I met the camera directly. Yes, I struggled after my father died. Many people do. That doesn't make me a liar. It makes me human. Evelyn used my grief as a weapon because she had nothing else. The clip went viral within hours. #AuditTruth trended globally. Support messages flooded my social media. Colleagues who'd shunned me sent apologies. Even some of Evelyn's former allies publicly condemned her actions. Evelyn disappeared from public view, her lawyer announcing she'd taken medical leave indefinitely. I'd won. Finally, completely, undeniably. The final audit report was released on a cold Tuesday morning. 63 pages of detailed findings. Evelyn Cross had falsified reports for 5 years, beginning with the 2019 audit. She tampered with project data, framed multiple employees for her failures, and obstructed investigations. She'd used her husband's security access to conduct corporate espionage on colleagues she perceived as threats. The fraud totaled millions in falsified revenue claims and damaged countless careers. The board officially exonerated me, offered reinstatement with a promotion, and extended formal apologies. But I turned them down. I was done with Cross Industries. Instead, I announced plans to start my own ethics consultancy, helping other employees navigate corporate corruption and whistleblower protections. TThe joined me as technical director. Harper became our client services manager. 3 weeks later, an envelope arrived at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $1.5 million, marked settlement for damages and emotional distress. A note read, "Please accept this resolution." I stared at the check for a long moment. Then I took it outside, lit a match, and watched it burn in a metal trash can. They thought money could erase what they'd done. They were wrong. Some things can't be bought. 6 months passed. My consultancy thrived, helping dozens of employees expose fraud and corruption. I'd found purpose in my trauma, turning my nightmare into protection for others. Then one evening, TThe called with urgency in his voice. "Mara, you need to see this." He sent me a final audit backup file he'd discovered during routine server maintenance. Hidden deep in archived folders was Evelyn's last private note, timestamped the day before she'd disappeared from public view. The note was brief. "If this fails, release Protocol L." Below was an encrypted file I couldn't open, with complex security requiring multiple authentication steps. "What's Protocol L?" asked TThe. "I have no idea," he admitted. But she wouldn't have left this unless it was important. Unless it was insurance. I stared at my computer screen, that locked file taunting me with unknown threats. Was it evidence of other crimes? Plans for revenge? Something worse I couldn't imagine? Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend I'd never seen it, move forward with my new life. But another part, the part that had fought so hard for truth, needed to know. I whispered to the empty room. "It's not over." The file glowed on my screen, locked and waiting. Whatever secrets Evelyn had buried, whatever Protocol L meant, I would uncover them. Because some fights never really end. They just evolve into something new.